Okay, so we're going to discuss why decimal multiplication works the way that it does. And in order to understand this, we need to start by understanding where decimals come from. Technically, the idea for decimal systems really it all derives from the Hindu Arabic number system, and this was a system that was invented in the Indian Peninsula quite a while ago, something like 1200 years ago or more, and eventually made its way over into Europe via the Arabic region. Of course, the system that they used, it's pretty much the same as what we have today, but they did use slightly different symbols. In fact, if you go to other parts of the world now, you'll find that they use basically the same system, but some of them use slightly different symbols rather than the ones that we use. So it's the same idea, but they might, instead of using the same symbols like 1, 2, 3, and so on, they have slightly different symbols for 1 and 2 and 3 and whatnot. Now, the idea behind this system is that you can express any number by a digit from 0 through 9 together with saying essentially how many multiples of 10 you have in a given place. So, for example, and this doesn't have anything necessarily to do with decimals yet, if we have the number 357, this means that we have 3 100s plus 5 10s plus 7 1s. And then what we can say is if you have something after the decimals, after the decimal point, it works the same way, except that we're talking about tenths and hundredths and thousandths and so on and so forth instead of ones and tens and hundreds and the like. So, for instance, if I have something like 46.72, well, this would mean that I have 4 tens, 6 ones, 7 1/10ths, and 2 100ths. Now, here's the thing. If you want to put these together into a single fraction, then the denominator, the common denominator that you're going to have to use, in this case, would be over 100. So you can think of this really as 4672 divided by 100. And this really shows you where the decimal rule comes from for what happens when you multiply decimals. Because when you're multiplying decimals, the rule for how to move the decimal point comes from what you end up with in terms of the denominators. So, for instance, if I want to multiply, let's say, 3.54 times 21.6, well, I can think of this as it's really 354 divided by 100 times 216 divided by 10. So this is going to become 354 times 216 divided by 1000. And therefore, after I do the multiplication, I'm going to have to count over 3 places to move the decimal because we're dividing by 1000. But you'll notice that those 3 places, that comes from the fact that I've got 2 places here, that gave me the 100, and a single decimal place here, which gave me the 10. That's where I got the 3 zeros for this 1000. And that's really where all of these rules come from. So the rule for how you multiply decimals then is you just count however many places you have after the decimal point in each number, and that total is how far you're going to move your decimal point. But that works because you're really multiplying fractions like this and then moving the decimal point over, corresponding to how many total zeros you have in these denominators together.